So everyone, let's start. Okay. All right, so just quick introduction, who we are, what we do. So you guys have registered for events. Some of you guys, I can see that you guys are new. Some of you guys have been to some of the events, heard about us. So basically, Sigmaschool is a coding bootcamp, and we are the top coding bootcamp in Southeast Asia. We have 50 plus students that have graduated from bootcamp that are now working in tech roles. 98% of our students have rated us both all 5 stars combined from Google and course report. 90% of all satisfaction in terms of going to the materials, our services, and our curriculum. So we also work with enterprise hiring partners to basically expedite the hiring talent and their pipelines because they've vetted our curriculum and know the quality of talents that we're actually being able to provide as software engineers and AI software engineers as well. So big companies like Grab, OCBC, CoinGecko, Zeus Coffee, and stuff like that. So we also openly document our journey, basically what we want to do. We want to basically help a bunch of people that are not that have no tech experience whatsoever, beginners like yourselves, to basically transition and become like a techie. So whether it can be software engineering, whether it can be AI engineering, whether it can be data analyst, we basically want to help you. So as you can see from our student success stories, we can see that medical doctors, project engineers, even your past experience like mechanical engineers, coaches, you don't have. So basically what we like to say is everyone, not everyone can be a software engineer or a techie, but anyone can learn how to code, right? So let's jump right into it. So we've also documented our journey since 2023, basically sharing our experience, sharing our entire journey, telling the world in terms of what we're doing, and also we are backed by our stories and our results. So quick refresher for those that actually attended the previous lessons. So we've actually covered variables, functions, we've covered also conditionals and loops, mainly if else and also for loops. So for those that have not heard about any of these, don't need to worry. These will be covered again. So we'll be running events like these every week, and we'll be covering topics like these as well and covering challenges, how to solve them. So just as a refresher for those that have attended, basically variables are what you see on the top right here, right? So weight equals 65. That is how you declare a variable in JavaScript. So how you visualize it is basically a variable is you think of it like a box. Then you want to put a name on the box, which is right now you're trying to categorize weight. So draw a box, write weight on there, and then 65 is the weight. For example, if you're 67, 80 kgs, then you want to put the value inside that box. That basically means you're putting the value 65 as the variable for the variable weight. Right, that is essentially what variables are. Functions are basically organized instructions that you can use for reusable code. So in instance, in this picture over here at the bottom here, you can see that we are calling a function. We are creating a function, and how you do that is you declare the name function that basically tells JavaScript anything from behind that is a function. So you give it a name, sum. And what sum does is basically takes in 2 variables, which means 2 boxes, and you basically do math with it. So like the name suggests, sum. So x plus y. And then later in the future, when you want to call this function, you just call the name, you put in whatever value you want. In this case, 4 and 5. The output basically means 4 plus 5, which is 9. So in this case, a function is reusable. So if I were to put sum, and I put 6 and 7, the output would be 13. The results would be 13, and so on and so forth. So you don't have to always do the math equation. You just need to do it once, and then you call the function. That is basically what function is, right? Now, if else refresher is basically a condition. So conditions are like traffic light. I would say think of conditionals like traffic light. If the traffic light is red, you stop. If it's yellow, you slow down. If it's green, you go, right? So how it looks like in JavaScript is basically going to look like this on the right side. So if a condition, so in this case, if you're taking the traffic light again, if it's red, then you basically go in this corner here and it runs the code in this block. So in this instance, if the traffic light is red, you want to stop. If it is not red, let's say right now the traffic light has turned green. So if it's green, what you're going to do is you're going to go. And if it is not green, you're going to run whatever that runs. So that means if it's red, you stop. If it's not, you can go. Or if it's yellow, you can then slow down. Make sense? If anyone has any questions, just feel free to like raise your hands or just type in the chat and then I'll answer them as well. Cool? If I'm going too fast or you don't understand, same thing. Raise your hand, type in the chat. Right? Okay, I see a thumbs up. Thank you, Kimiko. Thank you, Ian. All right. So loop, we covered the last workshop last week. Basically, we covered mainly for loop. What for loop is basically doing is it has three different things. In like the name suggests, it goes in a loop. And for loop specifically, you have three different things that you create. How you actually declare a for loop: initialization, condition, and increment or decrement. In this case, how it looks like is you're going to initialize. For example, say you want to run on a running track and you want to run on a track 5 times. So you say, okay, I'm going to run it 5 times. You initialize. Then you say, okay, because you've not began a run yet, so you condition checking how many rounds, how many laps have you done? 0. So you want to do 5. The goal is 5, right? So if a 0 is less than 5, so let's run. So here is run. Begin running, and then you check. Then after finishing a lap, you add 1. Okay, you've done 1. But 1 is still less than 5, so that means you continuously do this until you've actually reached the goal of 5 laps, and then it executes out of the loop. So that is for loop, right? So that's a refresher of what we covered last week. Today, we are going to be covering mainly 3 things. So today's lesson might be a little bit longer, but the 3 things that we're going to cover is basically arrays, condition, and loops. The condition and loops we're going to cover is switch statements, and the loop is going to be while loop. All right. So arrays, what are arrays? So in JavaScript, arrays are basically an ordered list of values. So each value is known as an element, right? And you assign a numeric position called index. So over here, you can see in the picture, whatever I mentioned just now, element is basically individual boxes. So right now you're assigning 2, 6, 3, those are values into the position of index 0. So here is basically telling it what position you're in and what element is inside that position, which is 2, right? And how you get that number, it's basically going to be, say you want to get the number that's stored in this array. I want to get number 9. How you do that is going to be following this format. So you call the name, num is the name of this array. So you call the name, which means you type it out num, and you do a square bracket. Inside that square bracket, you have to put in the index value. This then tells JavaScript, okay, you want the value or the element that is stored inside position number 3, right? When JavaScript reads this, when it reads this specific line that you've written out, it then returns 9. So let's say you want to find out what is the element stored in position number 5. So when you write this out in the code, it then returns 0. So it all depends on what you store inside each element, right? And the element for an array can be anything, whether it can be a string, it can be a value, object, and even arrays of arrays, right? But today, let's just focus on like numbers and strings. There's a question in the chat. May I know if the recording of the previous session will be provided too if we missed it? So what we do is, right now we are in the process of like editing and also creating the recordings. What it is that if you're looking to learn, we will actually run these events on a weekly basis. So then do look out for our next event. We will cover the topics again. So covering like variables, functions again for the next 2 weeks, basically on a weekly basis. So it goes in cycles. Yeah. So for those that have missed it, don't you worry. look out for our next events, and we'll basically cover them again, right? Okay, back to the topic, arrays. So in this case, we are actually storing elements of 2, 6, 3, 9, 7. So basically random numbers. In this case, you can actually store strings as well, which means, let's say you have like a bunch of these color pencils and you want to store like the different colors that you actually have. So then you would put in here like orange, purple, blue, green, and then to call them to actually find out, okay, I want to know what is stored in that position. You then follow the index. Then you'll be able to find out what is stored in that array for that specific position, right? So for example, how it looks like if you were to actually say, okay, I want to store 3 different colors. So over here, you can see that we've actually have an array. So this is how you declare an array. You give it a name, equals, square bracket. So in this instance, so previously we actually stored numbers into it. In this example, what we do is we have colors, which is string. So we have red, blue, and green. So in this array, we have 3 elements, right? 3 elements. Basically, what JavaScript sees, it's going to be like this. So JavaScript, when you declare and you call this variable, the array, JavaScript understands that, okay, you have 3 variables, red, blue, and green string. Now, let's say you want to call, okay, I want to get the value, which is the color at the position number 2, right? So arrays are special. So like the example shown here, arrays, the position, they don't start at, although this is the first position, but the index starts at number 0. So when you call the first position, you have to always remember that the position starts from 0. So in this example, if you have 3 different colors, red, blue, and green, the first position, let's say if I were to get JavaScript to show what this is, basically JavaScript, if I were to print the output of I'm getting colors 0, colors 1, and colors 2, the output would be red, blue, and green because we have 3 elements and the index starts at 0. So when I call position 0, position 1, and position 2, it gives red, blue, and green. Now, if in the case you made a mistake and say, okay, you thought that, okay, position 1 or index 1 is actually going to give you whatever is stored in the first position, right? Now, in this case, what happens is that you would actually, because it's index 1, it goes to here, blue. So it follows the index, right? So even if you put, so there's only 0, 1, and 2. Now say if you go extend and you forgot that, okay, you only have 3 items, but you're calling, what this means is you're calling the 4th element because it starts from 0. So when you call the 4th element and you don't have anything in there, by default, JavaScript will deem it as undefined, right? Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
If it makes sense, everybody gives a thumbs up. Thank you. Cool. Makes sense. All right, cool. All right, let's move forward. Okay, someone has a question. Rosie, you have a question? You can either unmute or you can type in the chat so that I can answer that. Rosie? Oh, misclick. Okay, no problem. All right, let's move on to the next one. So that is basically arrays. Think of it like boxes, and each box, it's called an element. You can put whatever inside. And each box, you're going to start from position 1, is always starting from the index 0, right? So now the next thing you're learning is going to be switch statements. So switch statements are part of conditionals. What they do is basically they evaluate an expression and then execute based on matching cases. So it's basically an efficient way for people that have learned if-else. It's an efficient way. If you have a bunch of if-else statements, switch basically helps you make it much more modular and improve readability. So we'll be able to see the code later on. right? But in how you visualize it, so for example, in this illustration on the left, you can see that this like computer is rigged to a bunch of items, right? Switch statement basically tells helps you decide when you click a certain button, is it going to the robot? Is it going to the car? Is it going to the monitor? Is it going to the bathtub? Is it going to the vacuum? So switch statements basically helps you match it, and it all executes according to what the expression matches. So if it's robot, it only goes to robot, and you can do whatever you want, right? So that is basically switch statement. Now, how does it look in code? This is going to be, so it's going to be an easy way where if you understand if else on the left side here, basically this is how it looks like. You have a bunch of if else statements. So if expression is X, you run the code below it. If it is Y, you run the code below it. If it is Z, you can run the code below it. And if the expression is nothing of the above, then you run whatever is below. Now, if you have continuously, because code always changes and you always have to make changes accordingly. So in this case, how to make it much more easier or readability will be using switch cases. If you have a lot of if else, the common thing to do is implementing a switch statement. So how it works is you name switch, and then in the parentheses, you want to add an expression, the expression that you're checking for. Then you add case. So for each case, you then run a specific code when the expression matches that case. So it's basically same thing as running this. So it's checking if the expression equals to X. In this case, it's just changing the syntax. For the case of X, an expression is X, you run the code here. Now, the key difference I would say is break. Break is very important. So it tells JavaScript, once you have finished this code and once you have entered this point, you're telling JavaScript to break out of the other cases. So that means you don't check for anything else that doesn't belong, anything that is below that break. As soon as it enters this break, you basically, the name suggests, you break out of that switch case. So over here, the same thing, how it looks like in a graph position. Basically, you're going through the expression, checking if it is the same as the case. So case 1, case 2, and case 3. So if it goes to case 1, if it is the same, it will then execute it, code 1, and then it checks if there's a break, then you go ahead and break. Now, there is also scenarios where you don't have break. What happens then, right? So like I said, you need a break in order for JavaScript to know that once you execute it, anything below it, you want to ignore it, right? So an example, that is one thing that differentiates between switch statements and also if else, right? Not just having a bunch of if else, not just having a bunch of if else and what do you call that? Improve readability. But the one thing that switch statement has is also having that break. And when you remove the break, it changes the logic behind it. So what this means is, first, I want you to look at this. So right now in this, what we've written here is number equals to 1. This is a variable. So let's say you're checking if number, what's the value of number? So in this case, we have case 1 is if number is number 1, you then log first, and then you break. If it's number 2, if it's 2, if this variable, this expression is 2, you then print out second, 3, third, and anything else will be none, right? So in this case, because 1 is written here, case 1, when I run this code, what do you guys think would happen? What do you think would be the output if I run this code? Anyone? What would be the output looking at the code right now? This switch statement code. Anyone? Oh. Anyone?
Nothing happens.
Nothing happens?
You know.
Good try. So I would say because over here you've assigned number num, the variable num value 1. What this means is that it's gonna check if num equals to 1. So in this case, 1 equals to 1, which is correct. So when it is true and correct, it then runs this portion, which means it's telling it to print first, right? So if I run this code, so over here, see, it prints first. Now, if I run 2, then here it is. If I run 2, it would then print second, right? So it always checks if this number, which is what I've declared here, this number equals to the case that I've stated here. So in this case, if I put 5, now I have case 1, case 2, case 3, and a default, nothing else below. What happens when I run this code now? Anyone?
Becomes none.
Becomes none? Are you sure?
Yes.
Yes? Good. That's good. Yeah. So basically, you get the concept, right? If it matches, it runs the code, whatever it does. If it doesn't, this is basically a default. Anything besides the cases that you have already declared. Now, how it works is basically when you remove the break. So remember when I say console, after this line, it needs a break for JavaScript to basically know, okay, should I continue or should I get out of like this entire switch statement? So in this case, let's say I'm going to put num as 1 again. Now with this setting, I've removed the break at this point after console log first. So can anyone tell me what they think will be the output if I run this code? Now that the first point doesn't have a break. Anybody want to give it a try? First, second, George. That's actually very good. Nice work. So if I run this, it prints out first and second, right? Good job. So basically, it's telling it, it's doing the condition where if it's case 1, it runs first. But because there's no break, what JavaScript does, it goes to case 2 and it runs the code inside it as well, right? So this is how it differs between if-else statement and switch statement. So if you want to make sure that when the number is equal to 1 and you only want to run whatever is within this code, then you have to add a break. So you might ask, like, okay, why do I need to remove a break, or what's the instance that I need to have this, right? So in the case, let's say play, right? So in a game, say first place is, let's say if it is player number 1, if you're like position, that means you're the winner, right? And second, it's going to be loser, right? But so first place, if you're not first place, you're not the winner, basically. So what that means is you can do this. So if it's 2 or 3, you can put loser and then you break. And anything else outside is no such player. So when I run this, what this means is now, let's say if you're player number 1, right? You're in first place. This is going to show you, okay, if you're in first place means you're the winner. Now, if say you are in third place, right? What that means is, oops, the work. What that means is if you're in third place over here, player number 3, if you're in third place, you're the loser. Now, if you're also in the second place, the code also would print loser because you're not first place. Anything besides first place is going to be loser. But let's say if you only have 3 players, and now you're looking at, okay, if I came in at 5th place, what happens? Then code basically says, yeah, there is no such position or player. Maybe it's a 3-person game and you're trying to look for what if I get 5th place in a 3-player game. That doesn't make sense. So then you print out no such position or such player, right? So this is how you utilize switch statement comparative to if else, right? Now, let's go ahead and move on. So that is switch statement. So right now, let's do a little bit of challenge, right? To solve a little bit more problems with what we've just learned, switch statements, right? So over here, I'm going to share with you guys a link, and I want you guys to basically copy. This is where you guys can get access to the challenges that you'll be seeing in the screen. So I'm going to send you guys a link, and I want you guys to click on that, right? Go ahead and do that. Let me share the screen. So when you click on that link that I just shared, what you're basically going to see is this, right? You can see the same screen that I'm seeing. If you are, give me a thumbs up, right? If you guys are, give me a thumbs up. Cool, nice, nice. Thank you, Yushan. Thank you, Kimiko. Nice, Loshini, you got it. All right, Ian, you got it. Okay, so first thing, the same thing again, those that have been through this, what you want to do is fork it. For those that are first time seeing this, what you want to do is basically go over here. Either if you don't have an account, what you want to do is create an account. So you can go here and there should be a button on the top right. Over here, you can see my icon here because I'm logged in. But for those, you should see a sign in. What you're going to do is click on it, and you can either create an account, or for the sake of like being fast, you can also just connect it and sign in with your Gmail, Google account, right? Once you've done that, you would then see your own icon, an icon generated with your account here. And once you can see that, that means you're logged in. Now, once you're logged in, you're going to fork this project. What that means is basically you're creating a duplicate, a copy of the project that I've sent you. So how do you do that? So you can see there is a button over here, fork, on the top left. Once you've created an account, once you've logged in, you then are going to click on this button here on the top left, fork, right? So button over here, top left. So once click it once, and then you should actually have a pop-up saying project forked. To double check, you have double click on the name on top, and basically you have a word at the end duplicated. That means you have created a copy for yourself in your own project, right? What you're going to do is emails duplicate, or you can name it whatever you want, right? Now, once you've done with that, basically go ahead and give me a thumbs up, or type in the chat once you guys are done, so I know who's done and who needs more time, right? Okay, so for those that are maybe busy with creating your account, or those that are still trying to fork it, you guys are going to get like 1 minute to basically create your account, fork the project, which is duplicate, create a copy, and then once you guys are done, maybe you can rename it and then just type ready in the chat or done in the chat, right? Cool. Okay, Kimiko is done, Thumb is done. Right.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
Is this fork is the same thing with the application for fork where it's like, what is that? What is it the same thing as like perforce?
No, this is going to be different. So fork in what we usually use this term means you're creating a duplicate of the project. Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool.
Yep. Done, Loshini, nice. Saradi, done. Okay, nice. All right. So now that is basically what you guys are going to do. Okay, I think I'm sharing the wrong screen. Now, once you guys have your own copy, you're basically going to see this, right? The same screen. Maybe you guys have this file open, but I basically hide it on the side. So let's go ahead and try and solve challenge number 1 together, right? Okay, so challenge number 1 basically says it's going to be switch. So the file here is switch.js, right? So let me clear this. Now, switch.js is the file, and challenge 1, we're going to be doing our switch statement. So first one is create a switch statement that returns the range of the test score from the grade. So meaning, if the grade is A, you want to return more than, that means the score is going to be more than 90. If you have the grade B, it means it is in between 80 and 89. If the grade is C, it is in between 70 and 79. And if it is F, it is going to be less than 70. Okay, so to do that, now let's just create a variable. This is how you create a variable. So let's say I'm going to create, just by default, I'm going to put it 90 for now, right? And then I'm going to then create a switch statement. So to create a switch statement, it's just typing switch at parentheses. Now, because we want to check if, sorry, not 90, that is the output. So we actually want to put a string value, A. So how to do that is you're going to put one tick and then A, and then what is this called again? Quotations for this is how you declare a string. So over here, then now in the parentheses, remember, we want to actually see what the expression is. So in this case, we are checking for the variable grade. So then we add curly brackets that then defines the block, the code that you need to run inside it. So for grade, how you do that is case A, meaning if it is going to be case A, what you want to do is you want to console log. Console log is basically, for those who don't know what console log is to print outputs in the terminal. So because you want to declare a string, you have to add quotations, right? Single quotations. So now we want to do more than 90. And then remember, we want to make sure that we add a break after each case. Now, for the second case, you want to check if the grade is B. You then console log in between 80 and 89, right? Then we want to add break. Now, I know some of you guys are new as well. Basically, this semicolon is like a full stop in JavaScript. So for every sentence, ideally, you want to add a semicolon. If you don't, it's still okay. JavaScript in some actually does accept lines that don't have semicolon. So in this case, in between 70 and 79, break, right? Or we can actually do less than 70. Right. Okay. So now what this basically means is going to be, let me explain line by line. So now what we've done here is we created a variable and we assign it A in there. So the value A inside the variable grade, right? Then because the challenge is for each grade that you check A, B, C, F, you want to output a specific score, which means you're telling the user if your grade is A, that means your score is more than 90. If your grade is B, it's between 80 and 89. So this is just giving people the range of what your grade is based on the letter grade. Your score is based on the letter grade, right? So the logic behind it is switch. You're going to add the expression grade. Now each case is going to be A, B, and C. Now over here, it checks A, B, and C, and I printed out the same exact output. the reason why I added default is just, I think is if else case, maybe someone says, oh, what if I got a D, or what if I got a like F, right? Anything out that is not like A, B, and C, it's basically less than 70. Now, there is going to be a case where if someone says, let's do, if I put my name in here, what do you guys think if I run this code? What do you think the output will be? It doesn't have a case for this, but what do you think the output will be if I were to run it like this? If I have default in here. Anyone? Anyone? Come on, guys. Give me some feedback. Error? 404 not found. Now, remember when, okay, so it's still a string and it's still an expression. It's just my value that I put into the variable does not exist in any case. I'm not having any condition for that specific case. So the code will still run. But what it is that because by default, if it's not A, it is. If it's not A, if it's not B, if it's not C, it will always go to default. Now, if I were to remove this, or not remove, if I were to change, say, F, right, which is like what the description says, A, B, C, and F, right? If I only have case here, means is then there will be no output because I'm not checking for anything other than A, B, C, or F, right? Now, say if I have another default like this, console log, I can then put outside of letter grade here. So that means if anything that is not in checking, if the grade is anything but A, B, C, or F, it will always output outside of a letter grade. So if I run this code again, it'll then put outside of letter grade because I'm putting my name instead of the letter grade. Now, if I put F, run the code again, it would then put less than 70, right? Okay, I think I forgot to explain. For those that are new, right, to run this code, basically, right now you're doing an environment node. So what you're going to do is every time when you're doing a console log and you want to see what is the output, you're going to type in, let me clear this. Oops. Let me clear this. So what you're going to do is you type in node, and then you want to type in the file that you're adding the code in. So in this instance, we are editing switch.js. So if I were to edit and see what is the output of this code, I'm going to type in the name of the file with the extension .js. Means it tells JavaScript that, okay, or it tells StackBlitz specifically, okay, I'm running node and I'm running this specific file, only this file. And the output is less than 70 because I put F, right? Right, so that is basically challenge 1. Right, so we've now added conditions A, B, C, F, and also anything that is outside of A, B, C, and F, meaning if you put G, Z, X, Y, whatever, you always put outside of the letter grade, right? So that is switch statement. Make sense so far? Anyone confused, a bit lost? Email, you're talking too much. That makes no sense. Anything? If all good, anyone gives me a thumbs up or type in the chat. Cool. Thank you, Yushan. Thank you, Loshini. All right, I'm not going crazy. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Kimiko. Thank you, George. All right, now we're done with array and we're done with switch. Now it's going to be loop, while loop specifically, right? So while loop, let me go hit. So while loop is basically another loop where it executes a block of code repeatedly as long as a condition is always going to be true. So previously for loop, we determine like how many loops you want to actually run it for, right? We can actually determine how many times you want to do it, and if we're doing it at that specific time or like specific amount, then we exit out the loop. For while loop, as we can do that as well, but mainly it's going to check if the condition is true. It'll go infinite loops. So for example, in the case of a roller coaster, right? Again, I'm going to use the analogy of roller coaster. So if you're sitting on a roller coaster and let's say you would only stop going or sitting on the same ride until you puke. That means basically you're going to sit in the ride continuously for like infinite amounts until you puke, then you get off the ride, right? That means that is basically what while loop is. So it's going to check, are you puking? If you're not puking, stay on the ride. Until you puke, then you get off the ride. That is basically the concept of while loop, right? You guys understand? Give me a thumbs up. I don't know how well that sticks, but yes. So in code, what that basically means, or how it looks like, is going to be like this. So like the name suggests, while. So when you type out while, you have that condition. And as long as this specific condition is true, so like the same example again, if you're not puking, you basically sit on the ride continuously, infinite loops. Until you puke, then you get off, right? That is basically the idea of what while loop is, right? If it is true here, then you go in continuous loops. So how it looks like in graph is you start, condition check. So until, if it's always true, it runs the statement and it then checks again. True, if it's always continuously true, it just keeps going in an infinite loop until it breaks. Okay, this time you actually puked. Okay, then you get off the loop and then you do something else. Maybe wash your face, maybe drink, right? So in code, for example, over here is, if you're, for example, this example is checking the age, right? So say if someone is 15 years old, then you want to check if your age is less than 18, means you're still not an adult, you're still underage. What that prints is still not an adult. So what this means over here is, say it goes to the first loop, so 15 is less than 18, which is true. So you run this code, still not an adult. What happens here is it increments the age by 1. So it's 16. Goes back again, it checks. It's 16 less than 18, true, still not an adult. At 1, 17. 17 less than 18, true, still not an adult. Adds 1 more, 18 is less than 18, false, because 18 is 18, right? So then when it's 18, when the age is finally 18, you then get out of the loop. You stop here, you get out, and then you basically go to this line and say, you're an adult. That is basically a loop, right? If that makes sense, thumbs up, reaction, type in the chat. Yes, I understand. It all makes sense. Code is fun. Thank you, Kimiko. All right, cool. Thank you, Rizu. All right, so for another example, how it looks like. Now, let's combine both arrays and while loops, right? So in this example, we now understand, refresher again, what array is. Array is basically a bunch of boxes, which is elements, and you can have a bunch of boxes, and each boxes that you stack them back to back is basically going to have, you have to label them and you have to know like what position are they in. So it means you have indexes. So over here is basically you're saying I have an array of 4 elements and I am going to have 10, 20, 30, 40, the value in each of the individual elements respectively, right? Index is always going to start from 0, meaning position of 10 is going to be 0, position of 20 is going to be index of 1, position of 30 index is going to be 2, index of position 40 is going to be 3, right? Now, I equals to 0, meaning this is going to be a variable I, say it can be a position or something. Now, changes, right? So this is much more easier to see. So Over here, we declared an array of these values, 4 elements inside the array. Now we have a position where we basically initialize it as you always start from position 0. So then we create a while loop, right? While the position is less than, what this means is the length of an array. So over here, when you hover over the length here, you can basically see the explanation. So it's this is a number 1 higher than the highest index of the array. So what this basically means is that it gives out the number of elements in there. So in this case, because we have 4, so what this basically means is 4, right? It's checking if position is less than 4. But in this way, if say we have here length, we don't need to change this variable because it always determines how many items or how many elements are in the variable. So this is much more modular way. In the case, if your array changes, you don't have to change, go everywhere to change the code, right? You just need to change the array and here changes accordingly. So this is one way to do it. But essentially what this does is right now it's going to see a position less than 4. So while the condition here, if position is less than the total length, which is 4, it then prints out this. Remember this array, ARR, which is the array, and position. It's basically when you put it in the square bracket, it's asking you to return it's actually putting the index, right? So when you do this, means you're indexing and you want the value of this current position. And then here is incrementing the number of position by 1. So what that basically means in code, right, is this. Oh, okay. What is going on? I have an error. Position is not. Oh, there's a typo. Okay. Let me do that again. Bam. Okay. So what that means is you are now looping until the position is less than the total length, meaning your index is always going to be less than the number of elements because your index starts from 0. So what this means is it's going here, it's in code in JavaScript, the backend. For each line by line, what JavaScript is doing is you're going here because position is 0 and length is 4. So you then, it's true, so you run the code. So ARR position, now it's currently at 0. What this does is it's going to print number 10. So position 0, which is this one, 0. So that's why it prints 10. Now, when it goes to the second line, it adds 1. So now position is now 1. 1 is still less than 4, right? So then it prints ARR square bracket 1. ARR square bracket index 1 means 20. So that's why it prints 20. Then it adds 1 again, right? And then it goes on until it becomes 4. And 4 is not less than 4. So then it finishes over here after printing 40. Now, in this case, if you do this, right? Now, if we do this, remember, if we're doing this, that means we're trying to do, index an additional position that doesn't actually exist in the array. So can anyone tell me what happens if I run this code? What will be the output? Will it be 10, 20, 30, 40? Anyone? Anybody? George, you want to give it a try? 20? Now, remember, there it is going to be in a loop. So previously, the output was 10, 20, 30, and 40 because it goes for each index. So it goes and checks, okay, what is in this element? Element position 0 is 10, then prints out 10. 20, position 1, 20. Index 2, 30. Index 3, 40, right? What this does is basically it's telling it, so now the length is 4, but 4 plus 1 is going to be 5. So in essence, let me simplify this challenge over here. essence, I'm going to do this, right? If I run this code now, so there's only 4 elements, but I'm checking if everything is less than 5. What would be the output? Shows all the number. That was the previous one. So shows all the number would actually be this, because you have 4 elements, and for each index, it starts from 0. So if I were to actually put 5, what this does is actually going to be going for one more try, which is actually going for index 0. So on the last, what it basically does is on the last loop, on the last run, it's going to do this. So console log ARR 4. But we know that there is no index 4, or there is no element in the position number 4, because this starts from 0, 1, 2, and 3. So when we do this, there's nothing inside, so JavaScript would actually print out undefined, right? Does that make sense? So we're going additional one more loop. Does that make sense, Kimiko? Oh, right. So that is what basically how you use while loop with arrays. Now, while loop, this logic over here, right? Let me change it back to I, right? Oops. This is R. Now, to actually have like a good comparison, this section right here, or I would say this section, is the same as this section over here, the logic behind it, right? So if I were to run this for loop, like what we've actually learned previously, so if I run this, it actually would print out the same exact 10, 20, 30, 40, right? Then earlier I added the challenge where it's like, what happens when +1? So basically it does the condition here as well. So here is, if I run this, same thing, undefined. So these are just different methods and different ways you can loop around arrays, right? What essentially is going to be the same thing. So this is going to be while, right? Or you can actually do this as well. Here and I is not equals to number 3. So when I do this, what I'm basically doing is, if I is less than I is less than 4 and I is also not number 3, it continuously runs this. Now, the output for this, which is pretty cool, is because I'm now checking for 2 conditions, right? Both of them have to be true. So it only prints 1, 10, 20, and 30. Because if I is not 3, right? If I is not 3, then that means it's going to be false, right? So this is just like a trick question. All right, everything makes sense? While loop, everyone understand? Now let's go for one more challenge before we end this, just to get everyone solidifying on their understanding on while loops. So go back to the same stack blitz, the link. So I can send you guys the link again, basically where you guys will see. And let's do the challenge together, right? So go click on the link in the chat, and basically it will bring you all the way to what we have is wow. Or actually that brings you, you have to create another duplicate. But what you do is, because your file, let me share my screen. So the duplicate file that you've actually created, go back to your project. And you can see over here, you actually on the left, you can see that you have multiple different files. So now I want you to go ahead and click on this one, while, right? So make sure you're on the while file, while.js file, right? And then let's do challenge 1. right? So over here, make sure that you're using the same project, or you can create another duplicate. That's totally up to you, right? So challenge 1 is create a while loop that adds the value in the array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now break out the loop once the sum is greater than 9. So what this means is you're going to add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, addition of every single element individually. And then if the number is greater than 5, keep looping and adding each other until the number is greater than 9, and then print out the last index. Ooh, okay. Let's go. Okay, so let's do array. Let's first declare the array. I already have it here. Let me just copy this here. So this is my array as such, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now break up of the loop. So we need to create a while loop. So while, let's see, greater than 9. Okay, first I have to create a variable sum equals to 0, right? Because I'm going to have to add the elements and into this sum variable. Okay, so what I'm going to do is if sum is greater than 9, so over here, if sum is greater than 9, okay, let's do this. So if sum is less than equals to 9, meaning if the sum is always less than 9, so it will be true and you'll always continuously run the loop, right? Until it is bigger than 9, then this will become false, and then that's when you exit the loop, right? So this is good. And then you want to print what is the last index. Okay, so first you have to keep on adding the elements to each other to this variable sum. What that means is sum equals array, and then you want to get, you also want to, let's see, so it's much more easier to read. So array position, right? Or let's do 0. So these are variables. So you want to initialize the sum to 0. You want to initialize the index to 0 because you always start from the first position, which is index 0. So over here, if I want to get the value, which is value of the element, which is now 1, I'll do this array square bracket, and then I put the value of the index at 1. After this, I can either do this plus plus, or I can do this. Means you're always incrementing index by 1. So you're moving along from left to right of this array. So when you move 1, that means you're moving 1 position, right? Does it make sense? It makes sense? Everyone thumbs up? If anyone has questions, ask in the chat. Okay, cool. Thank you, Yushan. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Kimiko. Okay, so over here, back to this. While sum is less than equal to 9, means the number sum is not greater than 9 yet, you're always going to add the array's value of that current index, and you're always moving along. This basically makes sure that you're moving from left to right continuously, right? So what this basically means is in this loop, JavaScript will read 1 plus 2 and then 3. So 3 is still less than equals to 9. So it then goes 3 plus 3, 6, right? 6 is still less than equal to 9. So 6 plus 4 equals 10. Now, when it does that, 10 is going to be more than 9. So then you're going to print out, what you're going to do is print out the last index. So over here is, you want to do this. So log last index is, then the class index. That's how you do it. So this basically says you're just letting it know you're printing your, oops, let me go ahead and actually show you what it does line by line so you can actually see how it does it, or what it actually execute. So let me print out the value sum, and then also log index. Oh, actually, let me go ahead and do this. So with me doing this, you can actually see line by line what it actually does. So when it goes in here, what index is it calling? And then you can see the value of the sum as well, right? And then after that, oops, you can then see when it actually prints out, or when it actually exits the loop, then this will actually be printed out, right? So now let me go ahead and run this. Okay, so let's go through the logic line by line. Oh, you know what? I should have actually done this. It's much more easier. Sum equals to okay, and then index equals to, there we go. We go ahead and do this, and let's run the code. So what this basically does is, okay, so as you can see line by line, when it runs the first loop, which means it's going to be sum, it goes to 1, because the first position is at 1 and your index is 0, so which is correct. Second loop is your sum is 3 because your next index is 1, so 1 plus 2, that's why sum becomes 3, right? And then when your index increases to number 2, your sum becomes 6, is because last value of sum is 3, and the position at index 2 is 3, so 3 plus 3 equals 6. Make sense? Now, index 3 means the value is going to be 4. So your sum is 6, and when the value at index 3 is 4, 6 plus 4, sum equals to 10. Now, when it goes and check this, when it's now sum is equals to 10 and it increments, when it goes up here, sum is now bigger than 9. So when it's bigger than 9, you then exit the loop and then you print this and saying that the last index is index number 4. It means you have not actually done any increment. You have not taken the value of that index. That makes sense? So that is the index that you have not added that element into the sum. Does it make sense? If it makes sense, everyone give me a thumbs up. So this is how it executes line by line. Cool? All right. Cool. So inside this, there is going to be additional challenges. There's also going to be things you can try it out for yourself as well. And then later on, if you guys still have any questions, you guys can email us or text us, WhatsApp us with our support number, email us. So basically, that is going to be arrays, switch statements, and while loops. Now, this is mainly going to be workshops that we run weekly. So if you guys are interested to learn more about different things that I've covered, like variables, function, if you guys missed or you guys want a refresher, basically you guys can come to these sessions. These are going to be our free workshops where you guys, same thing, you guys can sign up on our website over here at the links. I'll share them here. So at the first link, it will be our free workshops in the chat. Basically, you can sign up for these events. Next week, what we'll be having instead of a programming workshop, it will be an info session in terms of if you guys are interested to learn what a bootcamp is, basically that will be, and how AI is actually affecting different jobs, especially in software engineering. Then you can go for that info session for our research, our insights, and what we think is going to be impacting the future. Right? The next one is you can also go to our website under Coding Starter Pack. This is basically going to be giving you a free starter pack where beginners like yourself can go through, able to see, okay, what kind of tech you are. There's going to be a quiz and 6 projects in 6 days where you guys can pretty much test it out. You guys can figure it out, okay,
yes, sir.
what you're going to be doing. Yep, Daniel, you have a question? Yo. All right. Okay. I'm going to mute you for a while. Let me know in the chat if you've questioned or anything. So, like I said, free starter pack has 6 projects in 6 days, and where anyone can pretty much start with this. You can have a quiz. You have 6 projects in 6 days, walking you through the basics of HTML, CSS, and also JavaScript. Now, for those that are advanced and you feel like, okay, I'm done with these kind of like beginner workshops, I want to do something like hardcore. I want to actually build an application, right? I want to become a software engineer. How do I actually become one, right? This is where you can actually check out our boot camps. This is what we actually do. We teach our students to how to become an AI efficient software engineer. These are basically boot camps that we run on a 3-month basis. Depends on different formats. If you're interested, you can go check them out at the Immersive Bootcamp. The link will be given as well in the chat. In the third selection, it's basically that, right? Immersive Bootcamp. Now, those are the different things that you can actually do after this workshop, right? So now for the fun part, picture time. All right, so for everyone that has their camera on just now, I want you guys to turn your camera back on, and we're gonna take a beautiful group picture just like this, right? Same routine, everyone. Come on, guys, let's go, let's go. Cameras on, cameras on, cameras on. So now what I'm gonna do is, okay, so the floor is gonna be open for anyone. Basically, if you guys want, you guys can scan this QR, provide your feedback. Maybe this lesson was a bit too advanced or too fast. Then go ahead and share your thoughts in here. Be as honest as you want. You can say, Emil, I don't like you. Can you change your teaching style or whatever, or your voice, anything. Ng Wei Ru says, thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for coming. Let me just change my background.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, I can hear you.
Question.
Yep, go ahead.
So, like, of course, I live in Texas, but how would I go about finding, like coding communities, so I can network with people?
Right.
So I'm looking for work in the software.
Okay. To code along, basically to have like community of coders to basically teach each other, ask questions, keep each other accountable and stuff. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay. For that, we are actually launching our Discord community, looking towards like next week onwards in a couple of days. So what we do is I can actually send it once it's ready, the Discord community is ready, we'll invite everyone. So all of our previous students will also be invited, and all the students or any of our attendees from the events and anyone can pretty much join our community. That's where you guys can post any of your coding questions, join our events, hear the announcements. So we have events like these as well, free events, even like free courses. That's where we'll announce it, and you guys can pretty much do the challenges together, like a pair programming kind of stuff.
Okay, and one more question. What is the fastest way to like learn coding? Because I have a certificate in front-end web development, but I felt rushed.
Okay. What do you mean by you felt rushed? Was it like you
even though I asked for an extension and stuff like that, I feel that I'm the type of person that really have to break things down to its like tiniest bits to really understand.
Okay. So you finished your certificate, you got your certificate, you finished front end completely, but you still feel like you're lacking in terms of like the skill sets and the understanding of depth of understanding, basically.
Yes.
Okay. For that, I would say continuously do like challenges and projects, especially projects in itself, because that's where it actually builds in that repetition and experience. So when you do projects, do it with, don't do like simple projects, do like try to create like a SaaS or like solve a problem. That's where you actually gain the skill sets. So for example, when you're building an app, don't just do like a simple app that can be actually like requested by AI, but try to do something that's complicated. Maybe you want to do like a planner that creates like different inputs and be able to get like maps from different sources, and how do you link it? How do you make the UI? For example, make it as beautiful as Airbnb rather than just like a HTML template. You know what I mean? So this is what it creates, I would say, that creativity and also that problem solving skills. And then with the experience that you're continuously learning, you'll gain the confidence in what you've learned in using that certificate as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say repetition and just also challenges. So build projects and also do like algorithm challenges with the tech stack that you actually understand. So for example, if you study like JavaScript, I would say do challenges in JavaScript like Code Wars, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes, I think so.
Yep.
All right. In my appointment, I will be leaving.
Yep, no problem. All right. Anyone else have questions?
Emil?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
quick question. Do you have any like bootcamp or any package for like machine learning?
Machine learning. So
Like
how
Python and so on.
okay. So right now we are actually in the process of actually creating machine learning and AI specifically courses. So in this case, we are actually looking to launch in Q2 this year. We will be able to keep you guys updated. So if you want, we'll add you into the waitlist and we'll be able to update you.
Okay. And I did requested for that starter pack for twice, but didn't receive that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did email your team.
Okay, give me one moment. Okay, after this, you should be receiving an email. I'll ask my team to actually send it back to you guys. If you still aren't able to receive it, what I would do is actually check your promotions tab. It could have landed in your promotions tab. If you still can't find it anywhere else, do send us back an email. Then we'll try and revert back to you or send the starter pack to you again.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Hello, Ian. Any questions?
I saw that the next session is an info session. What are you going to talk about in the info session?
Okay, the info session is not going to be teaching, but it's mainly going to be talking about like what we currently do, what is our findings in terms of AI and software engineering, the impact of like why software engineers, what are the skill sets that current software engineers with the age of AI, what do they actually need to learn, and how do they actually adapt? Because as you can see, like AI is advancing very quickly, everyone's uncertain. But based on the findings that we have, what are the next steps that you guys can do, and what are we changing, and what are we doing in our bootcamp as well? Yeah, so that is just going to be a sharing session, basically.
Okay, and then so now, because I missed only the first session, so will you be running back the first session after the info session?
Correct, that's correct. So the next week, so the week after next, after the info session, the week after that will be running towards like variables and functions again.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Okay. So this is the end. So we have to now advance to go to the starter pack and the others, right? Like the bootcamp.
So now
anyone what you want.
What you can do is actually you can go so you can sign up for the starter pack. It's basically free. We'll email it to you, and then you can go ahead and start doing the 6 projects in 6 days. So this will actually, you have a roadmap, you can follow the roadmap basically on your journey to become an AI software engineer.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem. Right. Anyone else? Any questions? Going once, going twice, 3 times? No? All right. Okay. If anyone has any questions, feel free to WhatsApp us or email us at Sigmaschool, support@Sigmaschool. So then we'll be able to reply to you. Our team will get back to you if you have any inquiries, any questions, our next event, stuff like that.